Welcome back to another video nobody asked for. Today we're going to be talking about the phenomenology of spirit, and the ghost of Hegel himself whispered this concept to me in a paralytic, dreamlike, waking state. So I don't really have any other explanation for what else will follow, but to me there is no better way to illustrate the extremely conceptually dense and convoluted subject matter in this text than with the June 28th, 1998 SummerSlam Hell in a Cell cage match between Mankind and The Undertaker. I really don't want any smoke from the philosophy bro community. It is unsafe, it is unsavory, it is unwelcoming, it is unbecoming of a young lady. It is with great apprehension for this reason that I share my findings, and I would like to remind you all that this is just in jest. He wrote the preface after the fact to give us a little taste of his freak after he was done doing burnouts in the parking lot and getting drunk and calling Kant a loser. Hegel's draft title is The Science of the Experience of Consciousness. Now, he decided that that was giving us too much information. And in German, you don't have an experience, you make one. So let's make it rock. Hegel has three aspects of consciousness, so I think we should just break them down quickly from the POV of an audience member at the Hell in a Cell SummerSlam match of June 28th, 1998. So imagine, you got your dungarees on, you're ready for girls' night, the crowd's rowdy, you're feeling uneasy, you excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. Hegel says name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, 3 you can hear, 2 you can smell, and 1 you can taste. You're still feeling a little bit wacky. You look yourself in the mirror, you realize who the f you are. That's perception. Sensation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perception. You in the bathroom figuring out that maybe things aren't that deep after all, and all of your friends are not mad at you. Understanding the final element of consciousness is when you have fun with your friends. Hegel says, your friends aren't mad at you. We're all having a good time. 1 cigarette won't kill you, kitten, is what Hegel said. You're feeling good? So if Hegel says reason is purpose, it is the intention of the King of the Ring, the SummerSlam, to figure out who is king. Match starts and the Undertaker climbs up to the top of the cage and the announcer shouts, 328 pounds! Chair at the top, the Undertaker disrobes for him. The actualization of the intention of purpose to find out who's king is what Hegel means by spirit. The realization of reason to its fullest is spirit. That's what Hegel means by spirit. So these 2 giant men crawl up the walls, still partaking in the fight to determine the winner, but also expanding it outside of its literal parameters. And Hegel says reason or spirit is both unmoved and self-moving. So the actual act of them moving physically, literally, and metaphorically the parameters of what hell is and what the cell that encapsulates said hell is. The next part Hegel whispers under his breath, and when we say pardon, he says,
oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
So we can only assume that he's talking about the identities of Mick Foley and Mark William Calloway as Mankind and The Undertaker, respectively. We assume these personas, they put on their costumes, they do their dance, and in that process, they lose the substance of their self, their physical self. They lose the substance of who they actually are as people, people versus persona, the difference between I and subject. That process, the disparity betwixt the two, that's the soul. That's the Geist, baby. That's the smell in the air. The process of these men fighting hand to hand, fist to fist, body to body, ear to body, head to floor, is the removal of the substance of their actual self. They remove their own subjectivity in the process of this moving. They're still the same, but they're stripping themselves of themselves in order to actualize the purpose, the reason. Who's gonna be king?
You could do so you could.
By differentiating the two from the I and the subject, it preserves them in this godlike state of existence, of unkillable monster trucks of men running over each other's near lifeless corpses. And if the purpose is realized, if there's a winner at the end of the match, regardless, if you're speaking about Mick Foley or Mankind, if you're speaking about Mark William Calloway or The Undertaker, they arrive at the same end. Sense certainty, what you see around you, what you understand as your immediate consciousness, in this case, in this Geist, in this consciousness, is constantly shifting. The parameters of the cell, constantly shifting. What we know to be hell. If the fight transcends the sheer dimensionality of the cell, and the parameters of hell are constantly shifting, then the consciousness is constantly shifting.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's hell in there. It's horror. You have to be a certain type of person to survive.
We're all on the same page. The match is starting. They play the Undertaker's theme. They call him the phenom of the WWE. So naturally, you can understand how, where, when, and why Hegel changed his title from the aforementioned working title to the Phenomenology of Spirit based on that alone. They remove their own subjectivity as people in contrast or at the negation of the WWE characters. And if purpose is realized at the end, the same outcome, despite being separated from their identities. It is that that unites them in the end. There's a taste of the flavor of Hegelian dialectical thinking. King of the Ring. Someone shouts, "Don't fall, Undy!" What happens next is genuinely unpredictable if you haven't seen this fight. Mankind is then thrown 16 feet off the top of the cage onto the judge's table, and for a long time it seems like he genuinely has lost his life. Mankind rises from the ashes of a broken body, climbs back up there. Then Undertaker headbutts him and throws him back. Undertaker headbutts him and throws him off the top of the ring, and we get this beautiful still. The announcer says, "That's it, he's dead." Bunch of clamoring to stop the match. And one of the announcers delivers this absolute heater. The poor son of a bitch, he's broken in half, and I think the Undertaker likes it. Undy stomps down and genuinely tries to kill anyone attempting to provide this man with legitimate medical intervention for quite serious injuries.
Dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burnt to the ground. I want to go to the middle of the night. I want to piss on his ashes.
Undertaker hits the ref. Everyone's chanting for the Undertaker to finish the job as Mankind lays on death's door. Undertaker begins to disassemble the ring and pummel Mankind with the steel steps, which is of course what Hegel means when he talks about dissolving bit by bit the structure. Mankind looks up in a full face close-up, completely looking like Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation remake with Matthew McConaughey. Mankind spins Undertaker on his head and jumps on his face with a chair in between their bodies, and it genuinely should kill him, but it doesn't. Hell is in Pittsburgh tonight. Then he grabs a large sack of steel thumbtacks and disperses them, sprinkles them onto the ring. Then Mankind gets the mandible claw on him. Undertaker chokeslams him into the tack pile, choke tombstones him, everybody cheers. Hegel says true absolution is the plot of Martyrs 2008. If you think you know God, if you think you know your limits, if you think you know the divine, if you think you know some otherworldly consciousness, you don't know is what Hegel said actually. And without pushing yourself towards that limitation of the self, there's no way for you to see the reflection or the becoming of your idealized, actualized self. Hegel said Fitzpo, Hegel said Jim Goals. These two wrestling gods surrender to the possibility that one or more of them may be murdered on this fine evening of June 28th, 1998, but still roll around together in the slot pile at the slaughterhouse like two prized hogs. I bet you're dying to know more. Everyone chants Foley, not Mankind. This is how Hegel says the self in the otherness becomes explicit. The spirit of the Summer Slam. Hegel says reason is spirit when it's fully realized. So now we have the Geist of the collective consciousness, not the same code of morality or ethics or law or anything. It exists in the outside world in the same way that if someone saw someone suplex another human onto his head into a rusty pile of tacks and throw him off a building and then stare at his lifeless corpse, not sure if his spinal cord is severed or not, and then beat him with some stainless steel steps and then cheer, watching them pummel each other almost to the death is knowing.
Shit, I don't even know. Like, I can't even tell you that. Like,
Thank you for listening to the musings of a lunatic, and hopefully you learned a little something. Drop your favorite 18th century German idealist, philosopher, or wrestler in the comment section below. Let's get the dialogue going.